Hello students, today we will study asexual reproduction. First we will define what is reproduction and what is asexual reproduction. The production of new individuals from their parents is known as reproduction, and when these new plants are obtained without the production of seeds, it is referred to as asexual reproduction. Today we will study four types of asexual reproduction. First, vegetative propagation. Second, budding. Third, fragmentation. And fourth, spore formation. We will study each of them in detail one by one. Let's start with vegetative propagation. In case of vegetative propagation, new plants are produced from roots, stems, leaves, and buds. Since reproduction is through the vegetative parts of the plant, it is known as vegetative propagation. Let's look at some of the examples of vegetative propagation. First is rose. In case of rose, vegetative propagation is performed by stem cutting. We can see in this figure that the stem cutting bears a node and bud in the axil. We will bury the cutting in the soil, water the cutting every day, and after a few days, we will observe that the new plant arises. Another example of vegetative propagation is bryophyllum. Leaf of this plant bears buds in the margin, as we can see in this figure. When the leaf of this plant falls on a moist soil, each bud has a potential to give rise to a new plant. We can also observe vegetative propagation in case of potato. You all might have seen scars on potato that are known as eyes. If we keep the potato in moist environment for 10 to 12 days, we will observe buds growing from eyes, as we can see in this figure. We will cut a small portion with eye and bury it in the soil. We will water it regularly, and after a few days, we can observe new potato plant growing. Now, you all might be thinking, what are the advantages of vegetative propagation? Plants produced by vegetative propagation take less time to grow and bear flowers and fruits earlier than those produced from seeds. Also, since the plants are produced from a single parent, the new plants are exact copies of the parent plant. Now we will study another type of asexual reproduction, that is budding. You all know that yeast is a single-celled organism and can be seen only under the microscope. These grow and multiply every few hours if we provide them sufficient nutrients. We can see budding in this figure. There is a yeast cell which develops bud, and it can also develop chain of buds. Let us see how they reproduce. You can perform a simple experiment to demonstrate the reproduction in yeast by budding. You can take a pinch of yeast powder, add a spoon of sugar and water. Shake it to dissolve the contents and keep it in warm area for 1 hour. We will take a drop of this solution and observe under the microscope. We can see the formation of new yeast cell. In this figure, the yellow circles represents the budding in yeast. These show a pair of yeast cells, which indicates that bud is arising from the parent yeast cell. Now we will study third type of asexual reproduction, that is fragmentation. You all might have observed slimy green patches growing in stagnant water bodies such as ponds. Those are known as algae. When water and nutrients are available, algae grows and multiplies rapidly by fragmentation. An alga breaks up into two or more fragments. These fragments or pieces grow into new individuals. This process continues and they cover large area in a short period of time, as we can see in these figures. We can note one interesting thing, that algae can also grow in non-aquatic habitats. Non-aquatic habitats will refer to those habitats where water is not present. However, the environment is moist and humid. Therefore, we can also observe the growth of algae on moist flower pots, damp walls in rainy season, and humid tree trunks, as represented here. Last, we will study spore formation. Spores are the asexual reproductive bodies. Each spore is covered by a hard protective coat to withstand unfavorable conditions such as high temperature and low humidity, and therefore they can survive for a long time. When spores are released, they keep floating in the air, and since they are very light, they can cover long distances. Under favorable conditions, a spore germinate and give rise to new individuals. We can see reproduction through spore formation in ferns. Plants such as moss and ferns reproduce by means of spores. This figure represents ferns with sori, that are the spore forming bodies. You can also demonstrate the reproduction through spore formation in fungus by a simple experiment. You can take a piece of bread, keep it under moist conditions for 10 to 12 days. After that, you can observe the growth of fungus from spores on the bread piece. Where did this fungus come from? This fungus comes from the spores that are present in the air. So, we can see that the fungus grows on a moist piece of bread, and if we observe it under the microscope, we can see the fungal growth of different types. So, we have covered 4 types of asexual reproduction, that is vegetative propagation, budding, fragmentation, and spore formation. Thank you. Happy learning.